Washington. There's ICE.
He's not doing anything.
Federal agents from Homeland Security, you understand that?
And I can't imagine how their kids feel.
We allow them to come in, and right now we punish them.
We are committed to be here for Kuya G.
Feeling like he's having a heart attack and not being able to breathe.
We're going to have to get him seen for medical attention.
They're grappling with all this and living in a lot of fear.
That's crazy. They just block him in like that.
Does that mean that they're going to be out of status? Like, is that going to mean that they can be picked up? You know, there's all kinds of fears around that.
And this administration rounds up hardworking people trying to provide for their families.
Immigration enforcement is ramping up in Western Washington. We bring you the reporting that shaped the last few weeks and the stories that continue to evolve. I'm King 5's immigration reporter, Sharon Yoo. This is ICE in Washington, a King 5 streaming special report. We start in Olympia, where cell phone video of an immigration arrest is raising new questions about how federal agents are finding their targets and whether a license plate camera system is playing any role.
That's crazy. They just block him in like that.
When Jesse Ashton saw a car being tailed,
That's insane.
he knew he had to start filming.
I had an idea that it was ICE.
Ashton's video shows men in bulletproof vests, some wearing face masks, detaining a man in a red hoodie.
They just got him in the car and left the car in the middle of the road right here.
Olympia police confirmed this was an ICE arrest, but said they had nothing to do with it. In the same release, Interim Police Chief Shelby Parker reiterated Olympia's sanctuary city status and said, quote, federal immigration authorities do not have access to OPD systems or data, including the Flock Safety Camera Network. But a University of Washington study from last month shows the feds have gotten a hold of Flock images and data from several local law enforcement agencies. The city of Redmond disabled its Flock camera system following that report and after ICE arrested at least 2 men near one of its Flock cameras last week. But Olympia has doubled down, saying Olympia's Flock program is configured with the strictest data privacy.
You can't be a sanctuary city as long as you have these cameras up.
Sebastian with DeFlock Olympia, a group fighting the Flock system, is skeptical.
There's no way that they can safely put those up there and not expect any other agencies to get into them.
ICE has eyes on Olympia, the group says, but Ashton says he's got eyes on ICE, and he's glad he caught the arrest on camera for awareness.
Feels sad for people that have to go through this. And I can't imagine how their kids feel when their dad or mom doesn't come home.
The city of Olympia decided earlier this month to deactivate all 15 of its Flock cameras by blocking the lenses and putting hoods over them while they wait for Flock to deactivate. The city says it will explore what it means to potentially terminate its contract completely with Flock in the next few months. Olympia isn't the only city working to navigate how Flock's data is being used. The tech city of Redmond, home to Microsoft, initially embraced the introduction of the automatic license plate readers, but residents also called on the city to deactivate them recently. But the police say it's getting rid of a tool that's helping them solve crimes. Residents of Redmond made it clear tonight they want Flock gone for good.
And the only acceptable remediation is complete cancellation of Redmond's contract with Flock.
I think that actual risks far outweigh presumed benefits. Please remove all the Flock cameras in Redmond, and please make sure that we don't have a mass surveillance system in the future.
But Redmond Police Chief says he's a firm believer in the technology, and the cameras have been helpful during the 5 months they've been active in the city.
This tool creates an efficiency for my staff. It alerts us when crimes or when vehicles associated with crime come into the city of Redmond, which gives us, I'll call it a leg up.
Chief Lowe says he's confident the feds have never accessed Redmond's data, despite the University of Washington report saying multiple Washington agencies are sharing data either directly or indirectly, often not realizing how their networks are exposing it.
Again, this is not exclusively about immigration. I understand the community's concerns about that, but I would offer a counterpoint. The government has subpoena powers. A Tesla automobile captures way more information than an automatic license plate reading camera, and we know how many Tesla vehicles are in this region.
Redmond City Council members asked for more time to further discuss Flock's future as residents continue to rally against the 24 Flock cameras in the city.
I implore the city of Redmond to cancel their contract with Flock and take down these cameras as soon as feasibly possible.
In Southwest Washington, 2 recent arrests by federal agents left one man mauled by a canine and another claiming officers ran over his legs while moving his car. Devin Haskins reports.
Relax. Can you pull him up? He's not doing anything.
2 recent incidents involving federal agents, both times with someone getting injured. This video is from November, where witnesses say a Vancouver man was bitten by a Homeland Security canine during an arrest. Photos show the gashes over his body.
To unleash a dog on someone who was not provoking it, had no reason to be provoked, it is just astounding to me.
They're hurting him.
In another video, witnesses say a Vancouver man's leg was run over when federal agents moved his car. ICE denied that its agents ran over the man's legs, saying in part the man, quote, launched into an Oscar-level performance, dramatically screaming, while officers simply moved his vehicle off the roadway. It went on to say that he received medical attention and had no broken bones or injuries.
If there's a use of force, regardless of whether someone gets injured, there's going to be an internal investigation just to make sure we're prepared.
Brian Dugan was a former FBI agent for over 2 decades. He says each incident where someone is injured is supposed to be investigated.
They need to make sure that they have documented and looked into any time use of force is being used.
Federal investigations involving an injury or use of force are rarely made public. That's a different approach than we often see with local police. Dugan says this comes down to evidence rules and how federal investigations are structured.
Because of federal rules of evidence, the transparency may not be there that much on the federal side compared to the local side, where police departments, police chiefs feel more emboldened or required to answer the public faster.
And while video, like body cam or cell phone footage, can show part of the story, Dugan says it's important to remember that it's never the full picture.
Sometimes things that happen before aren't captured, things that are happening behind the officer or even around, or sounds are missed. And so we always have to make sure that we understand that we're only seeing part of the totality of the circumstances.
In the case of the Vancouver man whose legs were allegedly run over, Vancouver police say they are investigating as the incident happened in their jurisdiction. And in Everett, a Thanksgiving food giveaway turned tense after suspected ICE agents arrested a man just hours before families started picking up holiday meal kits. Immigrant advocates say many families who are in the U.S. legally are now afraid to show up anywhere federal agents might be watching. Cell phone video from Everett this morning shows suspected ICE agents in bulletproof vests arresting a man in a blue hoodie in a strip mall parking lot. Advocates with Refugees and Immigrant Services Northwest say this video spread quickly.
We got the news from one of our clients supposed to come here and pick up food.
Van Kuno, the executive director of the nonprofit, says families were already hesitant to come for Thanksgiving meal kits, and this morning's arrest deepened that fear.
They're afraid, and we want to move the line as quick as possible, just in case something happens.
How you doing? You got a ticket?
The group took meticulous precautions to protect people from ICE.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
We have 5 police officers and a captain here.
Kuno says the threat of enforcement, the ending of SNAP benefits, and the continued delays of work permit renewals for immigrants have left many of her clients in crisis. Nationally, 54% of all work permit applications now take longer than 180 days to process.
I'm talking about people come here legally. We allow them to come in, and right now we punish them in very inhuman way.
As volunteers rush to pack trunks in Everett Community College's parking lot K, Kuno says she hopes the K can stand for kindness. Kindness she will never forget.
I just hope our country return back to the way it is, because when I came to this country 50 years ago, I got a huge welcoming from everybody.
Arrests are only the first step. What happens to the people taken into custody? What happens to the detainees? We answer those questions next. At SeaTac, activists say a gravely ill green card holder in federal custody should be in a hospital, not on a 14-plus hour deportation flight. The standoff between his supporters and ICE took a surprising twist at the airport. King 5's Maddie White has the story.
New video shared exclusively with King 5 shows Greggy Sorio using crutches to make his way into SeaTac Airport. Immigration activists with the Tango Migrante movement say he is gravely ill and that while detained, he developed ulcerative colitis and severe bone infection that required amputation of his pinky toe. Noah Aheto has spent months fighting Sorio's deportation, and he's not the only one. Dozens of activists drove to SeaTac Airport Sunday night to make their message clear.
And they will have blood on their hands if he ends up being, hurt more or even dies.
For the last 10 months, the 37-year-old was detained at Tacoma's Northwest Detention Center, where activists say his health declined.
He's been experiencing excruciating gastrointestinal pain.
I would say do your job. But...
Prior to their gathering at the airport, activists spent the weekend outside the facility.
Blood in his stool, blood in his vomit, difficulty breathing, his skin is yellowing.
They say their calls for getting Sorio the care he needs have been ignored.
He is not in a state to fly. He is not in a state to be removed from care. He really should be in a hospital in a safe, sanitary environment where he can recover.
The GEO group, which operates the detention center for ICE, hasn't returned our request for comment. According to ICE's website, they have a formal process to ensure medical clearance for deportees, with denials for those found unfit for travel. Activists say Sorio told their attorneys he'd be flying Philippine Airlines back to Manila Sunday night.
People are talking to the Philippine Airlines staff or office, and then trying to make the argument for why he should not be on this plane.
Since that story aired, ICE continued to attempt to deport Sorio. His supporters gathered outside the detention center in Tacoma to put more pressure on decision makers. This is video of Greggy Sorio, known as Kuya G, struggling in crutches Sunday night to get out of a van to board his deportation flight at SeaTac. Now he's back at the Northwest ICE Processing Center in Tacoma.
The Philippine Airlines medical team deemed him as unfit to travel on the plane, and he was escorted off.
Noah Aheto with Tango Migrante, a Filipino immigrant justice group, says Sorio, with his medical conditions, won't survive a more than 14-hour flight to the Philippines.
He's constantly vomiting blood. He's had multiple instances of feeling like he's having a heart attack and not being able to breathe.
And a bone infection that led to the amputation of his pinky toe continues to worsen.
It's still an open wound, so with continued infection, there's always a risk of sepsis.
ICE says Sorio has been in custody since end of February. Sorio is a green card holder originally from the Philippines. He has lived in the U.S. for nearly 2 decades. ICE says Sorio was sentenced for domestic violence in Alaska prior to being transferred to ICE custody, and that he has records of theft, forgery, fraud, and multiple assaults.
We are committed to be here for Kuya G.
Fighting rainy and blustery conditions, Tango Migrante asked for not just medical care for Sorio, but also his immediate release.
He should have been provided adequate health care months ago to prevent his health from deteriorating this far.
ICE said in a statement they provide 24-hour access to medical care, and that, quote, this is the best health care that many aliens have received in their entire lives. But King 5's previous reporting has shown the system, at best, is overwhelmed.
I have a medical emergency at 1623 East J Street, Tacoma.
In October, we showed that inside this federal immigration detention center, nurses have repeatedly called 911 for help they can't provide. Aheto says ICE is threatening to deport Sorio again tonight. That leads him to believe they're trying to pass the buck across international borders.
We believe is actually that they're trying to expedite his deportation so that his death is not on their hands.
Sorio's supporters' cries for help worked. A judge issued a temporary restraining order stopping Sorio's deportation for 2 weeks. ICE started its enforcement in Western Washington mostly quietly, but the first case that grabbed the sound's attention was the arrest of a mother who was dropping off her son at daycare. This happened in Issaquah. This is video of a mother we're not identifying because she hasn't been charged with any crimes. She can be seen on the Learning Nest's Ring doorbell footage with 2 children and another adult waiting for the door to open. She's saying in Spanish, "I'm not sure if they're official and I imagine they are ICE." Fatima Escareno is the Learning Nest's owner.
She was being followed by ICE. She was like, I don't know what to do. I just need help. I think that I need to just hand you over my child. In the meantime, she was saying goodbye to her child. She was just kissing him and just telling him, just never forget that I love you so much.
Other parents like Bill Brower, also at drop-off, caught the tail end of that goodbye.
We had some gentlemen come up to the school and grabbed a mother during drop-off. You know, pretty fast, pretty concerning.
After that, Escareno says the same agents returned. The timestamp on that Ring video is 4 minutes after the mom rang the doorbell. In the video, the agent can be heard saying she's probably and mouthing what seems to be the word illegal.
She's probably.
Escareno says a teacher who is a woman of color was behind the door this time.
She didn't know what to do, if she should open the door or not. So she was also kind of like getting advice and calling me like, hey, there's an officer here that wants to come in.
The same video shows the agent saying rain check and leaving. Escareno says she took that to mean they might come back and decided to close the preschool today.
My skin is darker. I obviously look Hispanic. Am I in danger? So getting those kind of questions, it's very difficult for me especially because I can't say, no, you're not in danger.
Since her arrest, the family has identified the woman as Diana Romero. She has since been deported to Colombia. Washingtonians aren't just being held in Tacoma. We spoke to a Renton family about a father being held by ICE nearly 2,000 miles away while his newborn daughter here in our state carries his name. This baby girl born last Thursday is Daniela, named after her father, Daniel, who has never met her.
When Daniel was arrested, she was about 3 months pregnant.
Vasily is a family member. We're protecting his identity because he worries about his own green card status. He says Daniel, a long-haul truck driver, was arrested in Texas earlier this year.
Was pulled over in Texas just for a routine commercial vehicle inspection. They saw that he had expired U4U.
Daniel came to the U.S. legally in 2023 through the U4U, the Uniting for Ukraine program. It was established in 2022 for Ukrainians fleeing the war. Vasily says Daniel filed for his renewal on time, but due to the government's 4-month-long pause for all humanitarian parole programs earlier this year, the renewal wasn't processed. Daniel has no criminal history.
We can't go back to active war in the country, and yet nothing has been approved here.
His family has tried every option, including filing for asylum and wrongful detention, all hoping to stop ICE from carrying out a deportation order against him.
Even though he wasn't called into military, but they will be treated as a deserter, where it's like, okay, now you're going straight to the front lines.
Now his wife and 3 daughters are struggling to keep up hope for the holidays, waiting for their father nearly 2,000 miles away to come home.
The family been helping out as much as possible, relatives, but even us, there's only so much we can do.
His family has launched a GoFundMe to help Danielle's family because Danielle was the main breadwinner. We have the link on our website. When federal policies shift, Washington families feel it immediately. Next, what President Trump is proposing after a deadly shooting in D.C. and other policy changes already happening. Immigrants who live in Washington legally are on high alert after President Trump shut down asylum programs in the U.S. Trump's warning came after learning the suspect in the D.C. National Guard shooting is from Afghanistan. Local immigrant groups say they're feeling a new level of tension after Trump's never-heard-before threats to throw immigrants out of the country who are living here legally.
Our clients and our staff are sort of reeling themselves in this moment.
Trump vowed on Truth Social to, quote, permanently pause migration from all third world countries and remove anyone who is not a net asset.
We've heard from families who are wondering, is it safe for them to send their kids to school to what degree are Afghans going to be blamed for the actions of this one individual?
The fallout extends far beyond Afghan nationals. It affects anyone seeking asylum and refugees already living legally in the United States.
In the meantime, we're doing our best to support our clients and staff as they're grappling with all this and living in a lot of fear.
Trump's talk of reevaluating the status of immigrants stems from the suspect in the D.C. National Guard shooting. The alleged shooter, Rahmanullah Lakumwal, arrived in the U.S. during the Afghanistan withdrawal under President Biden and later received asylum under the Trump administration. President Trump is now faulting the Biden administration for inadequate vetting. That claim is fueling these new sweeping immigration restrictions. Immigration attorney Devin Terrio-Orr says the moves to reevaluate those who've been granted asylum in the U.S. have no legal grounding.
These people are already vetted extremely well, and there's not really any justification or legal rationale to pause all adjudications or retroactively review things that have already been granted.
For families who believed their future here was settled, certainty has now shifted to fear.
I had a client just ask the other day for a case that we just filed, like, does that mean that they're going to be out of status? Like, is that going to mean that they can be picked up? There's all kinds of fears around that.
As federal policies change, Washington state is attempting to keep up by proposing new rules to give immigrant workers more protection. A new proposed bill would require employers to alert employees when ICE is planning to show up to look at the records at the worksite.
I really wish we did not have to be here today.
Attorney General Nick Brown acknowledged the harsh reality many immigrant workers face with the Trump administration's efforts to boost ICE arrest numbers. The feds are increasingly looking for people to arrest, including reviewing workers' work permits on the job site called I-9 audits.
We've certainly seen a pretty significant uptick in many parts of Washington state.
The legislation would require employers to notify employees if ICE requests their paperwork. Currently, there's no requirement to do so. The bill also prohibits employers from allowing ICE onto private property without a warrant and prevents employers from sharing worker data unless they get a subpoena.
Remember him repeatedly talking about focusing on the worst of the worst. But instead, this administration rounds up hardworking people trying to provide for their families.
ICE has carried out at least 2 workplace roundups this year in Bellingham and Kent, where cell phone video showed workers being detained and loaded onto buses. It's unclear if either company had prior notice before ICE showed up.
Communities across Washington will benefit.
Danielle Alvarado is with Working Washington, a workers' rights advocacy group.
This policy, from our perspective, is very concrete. It's very tangible. It makes sure that there's clear guidance that both employers and workers can use.
Sylvia Gonzalez with Casa Latina agrees, saying this brings light to immigrant workers in dark times.
I know we live right now in a lot of freedom, but when I hear all these people, they give me a little peace, a little hope.
Across Washington, immigration enforcement is touching nearly every part of daily life and is ever evolving as it remains the Trump administration's top priority. We'll continue following these cases, the legislation in Olympia, and the families at the center of them. I'm King 5's immigration reporter Sharon Yoo. Thanks for joining us.